Okay, this is day 2 of completing the square, and what we're going to do is we're just going to see one little change. And the one change we're going to see is that the first term won't always be x squared, and when that happens, what we have to do is we're going to have to divide all the terms by that leading coefficient. So as a review, what I'm going to start out with is one like the other day. So this one is going to have just a 1 out here in front of the x squared. So when that happens, we just separate our x's and our constant. So we'll add 15 to both sides. And I can put my boxes on both sides. And what goes in the box then is figured, again, by looking at b. So this is all review from yesterday. We've got b is 2. I've got half of b is 1. And then half of b squared is also 1. So we'd be putting 1 inside the boxes. This will factor x times x and 1 and 1. I need 2 positives in there, so I have a positive 1 and a positive 1x, which gives me a 2x. 15 plus 1 is 16. We can write this as a quantity squared. And then what I'm ready to do is square root both sides. So I get x plus 1 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 16. I can subtract 1 off both sides, and I get x is equal to negative 1 plus or minus 4. So my answer ends up being negative 1 plus 4 and negative 1 minus 4. So I get the answers of negative 5 and positive 3. One of the things I want to mention to you in this video is how I would not have solved this using completing the square. I would have simply factored this. It's much easier to factor this to come up with your answers. Notice how you still get negative 5 and positive 3. It's a lot less work. Okay, moving on though, now we're looking at this example here. And what I have is, I do not have that leading coefficient of 1. So what I'm going to have to do is divide everything by that number, which happens to be a 2. So I end up getting x squared plus 4x equals 5. Notice the space I left so I can put in my boxes. What we're going to look at is our b term. Our b term is 4. Half of b is 2. And then we're going to square both of those, or that, which gives us 4 again. So I'll put 4 in the box. This does factor. It gives me x plus 2 and x plus 2. 5 plus 4 is 9. You can write this as a single quantity squared. And then square root each side. X plus 2 is equal to plus or minus 3. Subtract 2. X is equal to negative 2 plus or minus 3. That gives me 2 answers, negative 2 plus 3 and negative 2 minus 3. So that's a 1, and negative 2 minus 3 is a negative 5. So my answers are 1 and negative 5. One more example in this video, and we'll do a couple more in the next video. We're going to divide everything by 3. End up getting x squared plus 2x minus 15 equals 0. I need to move my 15 to the other side so I have it ready to go for completing the square. X squared plus 2x plus the box equals 15 plus the box. Look at your b term, which is a 2. Take half of it, which is 1, and then square it. 1 squared is 1. So I'll put 1 in each of the boxes, and I'll factor it. This would be x plus 1 times x plus 1 equals 15 plus 1, which is 16. Single quantity squared. And then we'll square root both sides. So I get x plus 1 is equal to plus or minus 4. Subtract 1 from both sides. X is equal to negative 1 plus or minus 4. So I've got negative 1 plus 4 and negative 1 minus 4. This gives me the answer of 3, and this will give me the answer of negative 5. Alright, the next problem I have here, I'm going to divide everything by 2 because my leading coefficient is not a 1. So I get x squared minus 8x minus 20 equals 0. Then I'll need to add 20 to both sides. So I have x squared minus 8x. I'll put the box equals 20 plus the box. So b happens to be 8. Half of b is 4. And then when I square that, I end up getting 16. So I need to put 16 on both sides. This will factor into x minus 4 equals 36. This is x minus 4 squared. Square root both sides. I get x minus 4 is equal to plus or minus 6. Add 4 to both sides. X is equal to 4 plus or minus 6. So 4 plus 6 is 10, and 4 minus 6 is negative 2. In this next example, I have a 4 as my coefficient, so I'm going to divide everything by 4. So I end up getting x squared minus 10x plus 14 equals 0. Keep my x's on one side. Move my constant to the other, so it'd be a negative 14. Inside the box, I take my b, which is 10. I'll take half of it, which is 5, and I'll square that, which is 25. On the right-hand side, I get 11. On the left-hand side, it factors into that x minus 5 times x minus 5, and I'm just going to write it once. X minus 5 squared. Square root both sides. I get x minus 5 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 11. 11 is a prime number. It can't be broken down. So then my last step is to add 5 to both sides, and I get x is equal to 5 plus or minus the square root of 11. This is my last example for this video. I've got to divide by the leading coefficient of 3, which gives me x squared plus 5/3 x minus 1 equals 0. So I've got x squared plus 5/3 x, I'll put plus a box, equals, move the 1 over, the negative 1 over becomes positive 1, plus a box. The b term happens to be a fraction, 5/3. If you take half of that, 1/2 times 5/3 is 5/6, and then 1/2 b squared. Square each of those, you get 25 over 36. So I'll put 25 over 36 into each side. That allows me to be able to factor this into x plus. Remember, the trick is to look at your 1/2 b, which is 5/6. So it factors into x plus 5/6 squared. I can make a common denominator. This would be 36 over 36. 36 plus 25 is 61 over 36. Now I'll square root both sides. I get x plus 5/6 is equal to plus or minus. This would be the square root of 61, which I don't know, and that's prime. Will not be broken down, and the square root of 36 is 6. So this allows me to subtract 5/6 from both sides, and I get negative 5/6 plus or minus the square root of 61 over 6. This can be written as negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 61 over 6. So you can combine them underneath the same denominator.